your Get Set Up guide for today. We're going to talk about a low sugar version of biscotti. Be sure and jump into the chat with your thoughts and answer the polls and provide feedback. Really helpful to us. So today we have a dough already mixed up, but I want to tell you a little bit about this dough. In order to get a lower sugar version, we have used some of the sugar substitutes that were provided. You can take a look at that class online also that talks about how to use sugar substitutes to reduce your calories and reduce your sugar, insulin, lower glycemic index numbers. Please be sure to check that class. So I pre-mixed this so you wouldn't have to watch me just with the things going around. And this is really just a cookie dough with some added flavor and added ingredients. This one happens to have hazelnuts, and the flavor we added was anise, or a kind of a licorice flavor. But I did use 1/3 of two different sugars. So 1/3 is regular white sugar, which you need in order to bake properly, because there is some aspects to sugar that actually help the cookie dough to turn out properly. It browns better in the oven, etc. But we were also able to reduce our sugar content by using monk fruit and allulose. And allulose is from a corn product. It's very similar to Splenda, which most of us know about for our drinks. And the texture is slightly more fine than a regular sugar, but that's fine for this dough because we want it to all be together. And then the monk fruit is actually, texture is very similar to regular sugar. So that helps because the sugar texture is important when you do baking goods. Also, these two products, neither one of them have any calories, and you can use a 1-to-1 ratio in order to know just how much sweetness you need. So we're going to take the biscotti dough, and I've already measured and know that it is the weight of it. I want to make 3 logs that are approximately the same size. So I'm actually going to just cut it and measure it, and I know that I need to get to about 260 grams or so for each log. So let's see how we're doing here. Okay, I'm at 274. I'm going to cut that one just a little bit back. Let's make the other one by just cutting the last 2/3 in half. And this one, just a little too much. And this one. So I'm kind of testing myself to see how close I guessed. Okay, this one is close enough at 267. So we knew this one was a little short. This one's a little big. I'm going to take a little off of this one, add it to the other one. And the reason we want to do them as close to the same size is because they're going to all bake together. We don't want one getting too dark because it's too small, and the other one not finishing. Okay, so I am evening these out a little more so, and I think double checking. Okay, those two are exactly the same weight. And this one's very close too. Okay, so we have our 3 fairly even. It's not imperative that they have to be exactly the same weight, but the weight gives us an idea of how much dough we have to work with. In order to make what is going to be the first step of the final product, you can see here, I made this one ahead. This is what we're going to put into the oven for a second time. Biscotti is an Italian cookie, and it really only needs twice baked. We're going to bake these twice, but To start with, the important thing is we have to shape it. And to shape it, you will find that the dough is a little bit sticky. So having a little flour around, but not too much, because actually you don't want to add a lot of flour. That'll make them too dry and then they won't stick together. But I am going to shape it. And believe it or not, when I made this, I actually used my measuring tape to make sure that I'm about the right size. Because if you're going to have a fairly consistent product when you're done, rather than some really big ones or some really small ones and mix them all like together, you have to kind of keep as much consistency. Okay, so where I don't have my tape measure handy, I'm just going to eye it. It's one thing you'll notice with the artificial or the more natural sugars. They're not really artificial, they're natural. They're natural products that have been formulated to be in the sugar category. One thing you will notice, though, in working with them is that they are a little bit more sticky. So you have to be aware that your hands and the dough and all will tend to stick together. Okay, so I'm going to make these a little bit larger, but I'm going to just go ahead and lay them like so. And given that we have several stages to this, I want to show you the next stage. This will bake in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. You want to keep an eye on it. It's got to be at least a little tiny bit of more brown. You can see there's a little brown on the bottom, tiny bit of brown on the sides, but you got to get it to where it has baked enough to hold together before you can do the second baking. And the first baking is here. The second one we're going to make into the actual biscotti pieces. To start with, you want to cut diagonally, but the ends of the biscotti sometimes don't cut quite properly. I'm going to try two different knives. It's important to have a good, strong, serrated knife with a good cut. Here is one. Here is a completely different kind. Let's see which one does a better job of cutting. I actually like the small one better. Slightly, it's a slightly more serrated and made a really nice cut. So the next step is putting them on a pan. You'll see here I have two different pans. One pan is for the uncooked biscotti. The other pan for the cooked biscotti, the one that's going back in the oven. This one has what's called a silicone mat on it that keeps things from sticking. This one has a parchment. You can use either, but you'll probably find with baking that you prefer one over the other. I actually like both, but for the second bake of the biscotti, the silicone is just fine. For the first bake, I like the paper. So I'm going to cut this whole log in approximately 1/2-inch pieces, diagonally though, so you can see how that is not just a straight across cut. And when I lay them down, it's very important to lay every one exactly the same direction. Why is that? Because when you go to turn them over about halfway through the 12 to 15 minutes that they bake the second time, if you have them all sitting the same way, then you can figure out which ones that you haven't turned yet. Believe me, when you take out your final thing and half of them are way overdone and the other side is not, then you realize, oop, I kind of messed up on the turning part. So we have 3 logs like this. 3 logs can pretty much, after it's baked, it can, because it's not going to spread any, it can all fit on this pan. But I'm going to just go ahead and do the rest. We're going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes, for about 12 minutes, but I'm going to check on it halfway through so that I can turn them. So I will pull them out of the oven. Okay. And now making sure that you can see here sometimes the nuts may not stick. Doesn't really matter. It's really more of a look. Okay. So these normally could be, when we have 3 logs to cut, this could be completely filled up with biscotti. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the oven, and then I will show you the very final outcome. Our biscotti have now baked 6 minutes on one side, 6 minutes on the other side. We pull them out and put them on a cooling rack because they will be very hot. So be careful as with your pan and with the biscotti themselves. I tend to use something to help turn them over because when they come right out of the oven, they are hot. So when you're turning them one time in between, so at about 6 minutes, 7 minutes or so, when you turn them over just the one time, you're trying to toast the back side, the bottom side. And when you're done, you have a nice, crispy, but very delicious and low sugar cookie that is quite crispy. And then because of that, it's held together so well. If I had my cup of tea, I would just stick it right in and eat it. And it's a wonderful smell and a wonderful taste. Thank you for joining us today. Please check out some of the other videos we have, especially on the artificial or natural sugars. Thank you.